All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning, hello everyone, good afternoon, good evening everyone, depending on when you're taking us in. We love that you're taking us in, my God, it's a Monday, we feel good. In with the good, out with the bad. We've got the commissioner in tow. Albert is here with, as a commissioner, Pro Football Wrap on the weekend. We'll do that in a moment. Kim coming off her 14 shows that she does. Kim, the Steve Harvey of our little YouTube world. She's never met a show that she didn't like being on.
Bring it on.
Which is really, yeah.
Girl, you just woo.
You are, baby. Much to do today. We've got guests, and I've also got just a lot of stuff to cover. First, the guests. Of course, on Mondays, when possible, my other half joins. Courtney's got another story of It's a Murder Yarn and True Crime. And Karen Dawn joins us in the second hour with the news of animals, but there's a lot going on with revelations out of the last White House. Document burning, Menendez doubles down. Yeah, the embattled senator who was indicted, Robert, you can call him Bob Menendez. He
can we call him Bob Goldbar Menendez?
He of Gold Bar fame.
Yeah.
It really is the thing that he'll probably be remembered for. He explains why he had gold bars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash spread through jackets that were discovered by and during the search warrant exercise. He explains why it was all there, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I will remind you early on here to smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and it's great to have everybody here in the mix. How was the weekend, Kim?
Weekend was good. Homecoming weekend. Very first homecoming dance.
Oh,
yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Now, what is a homecoming dance like?
Kim, how are you?
What is what happens?
Well, usually gaggles of teens dress up in sparkly items or, slacks or ties. Mm-hmm. And they're looking fancy, and they go to school where they pack into a COVID probably filled sweaty gym, jump around for a couple hours and come home. Yeah.
That's not fake. That's real.
That is that's magic.
What's a guilty pleasure?
That's
Good times.
Suck up some. Now, do you have to chaperone that or be present for that?
Interestingly, they were asking for chaperones, and when I mentioned the possibility of chaperoning, I got shut down.
Oh, they didn't want chit there, did they? No, they didn't.
My husband and I told her, we both signed up. It was going to be like a date night, and I told her I have to go get a dress too now.
And she said, terrific.
Oh no, you aren't. No, you don't. Not going. I was foreboding.
Did you really do that?
I love that. They kept her out. They kept Mama out.
Morning.
They knew.
Yeah.
She's kind of a buzzkill, everybody. Yeah, that's the deal.
I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
Okay, I will get to Trump.
You know what I should mention really quickly?
Yes, please.
They now, on the way into the dance, they make you take a breathalyzer. All the kids, you have to blow into a tube so they can see if you've been drinking before.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, apparently, you can be hopped up on pills, whatever, You can be stoned out of your gourd, but as long as you've passed the breathalyzer, you're all right.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that.
I love that at least they've started some kind of barrier of entry. Yeah. But that's the latest on that.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. How are the levels today, Albert? Are the audio levels okay?
Kim's a little low, but I've been monitoring.
You've been riding it, Albert?
I've been riding the levels.
Yeah. All right. Very well done. Albert is
Albert, thank you.
He is on top of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And among the things that Albert is on top of, I believe it's the weekend in football. If you could give us a quick update, Commissioner, and then I want to get into some politics and what's going on.
Yeah, well, the Dolphins played really well, or you could say the Broncos did terribly. The Dolphins scored 70 points over the weekend, which I thought college football's on Saturday, Mark. That's a college football score.
It is, man. That's insane. It is exciting to watch that offense work, but I guess it really is exciting when you're watching them work against a defense that essentially isn't on the field. In other words, was it Miami's incredible offense, or was it just a lack of defense from
I think
Denver?
It's a little bit of both. We have Mike McDaniels is a product of Kyle Shanahan, our Niners. He's from our Niners, so he's brought his own creative offense down there, and it's really exciting to see. And the Cowboys lost also this weekend. Speaking of the Niners, we're looking like the strongest team in the NFC right now.
The Dallas Cowboys were thought to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest team in football. I mean, beyond even the Niners in some ways. They were talked about as having this vaunted defense. Anyway, what happened? They really did.
They never got it going. Their defense couldn't stop the Cardinals, which Cardinals on paper, everyone was saying the worst team in the NFL. And they played well, and they played well the first 3 weeks, actually. The Cardinals are scrappy. The NFC West is looking stronger than we thought it would be.
Yeah, this reminds me of last year when everybody thought Seattle would be so easy. And then all of a sudden, like, oops, Seattle's good.
I'm bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Commish, give me then the final, after 3 weeks of NFL, give me your, sort of from the commissioner's desk, your final appraisal as to where things are.
The Niners are looking strong this year. Everyone is looking kind of like they're figuring it out. And I'm feeling really good, especially in the NFC. The Chiefs are getting it together. Taylor Swift sighting at the Chiefs game for Travis Kelce, all-pro tight end.
She and he are rumored to be. Are they dating, Albert, or are they just friends? Is that the kind of thing that the commissioner would concern himself with, or is that more? Is that too romantic and away from football?
No,
do you have any information?
I believe in all the aspects. I have Travis Kelce on a number of fantasy teams.
Oh, good.
I think 4 fantasy teams I have him on, which is
he's a good guy to have on. He's very talented, and now apparently his love life is strong too. So go ahead.
She was in the family suite with his mom.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So
I
you
think they might be stirring the pot a little bit. I think they want to mess with the media, mess with the fans a little. I feel like that's the extent of the relationship. But if it goes, I hope it just goes well. If it goes bad in the off season, please. I need Travis Kelce this year.
You just don't want him to be distracted, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I need eyes. I need full focus, and I need to win my fantasy leagues. But it's looking like the Chiefs and the Niners are the favorites, at least in my eyes, to make it to the Super Bowl. So
would love it.
We could get that payback from the 10-point lead that we had with Jimmy at the helm. That we'll have.
Well, the only thing I wanted to mention, I'm glad you mentioned Jimmy, is that Jimmy G was on primetime television last night. He's now helming the Raiders. He looked great.
Yeah, visibly looked great.
Yeah, he was handsome, if that's what you mean. He was. I thought the Raiders would perform better than they did last night, but they just did not.
They were in it the whole game. I thought that was the most loser field goal I've ever seen.
Incredibly stupid decision.
They had a chance to tie the game and keep the drive going, and they settled for a field goal, and they barely got the ball back at the end, which was very disappointing.
Kim was beside herself. She would not stop blowing up my phone about it. She was really
upsetting.
It's
like
all right.
Wearing a visor, and he's a loser on the sideline, going for field goals. But yeah,
well, they shouldn't have been in that part. They shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. I didn't think they played particularly well. I mean, until that point, I guess the Steelers are. I always thought their offense was not much, but anyway, we'll do this on our sports talk show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. So thank you for being here, everyone. We will cover some stuff. I can't really believe that there is an explanation for gold bars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash being in your closet when you're a U.S. Senator. It's not just the money, you understand. They have breadcrumbs that lead the Menendez case. He's now indicted back to, he and his wife, back to favors he was doing and involvement that he was part of for foreign nations. Now, the interesting thing to me, I mean, it's all interesting. I was watching it this morning, the Menendez presser live. The interesting thing is, how he tries to essentially justify and explain everything, saying, I've been very tough on Egypt, and I've been tough on Egypt policy, and I've talked smack to Egyptian leaders, so you can't say that I was easy on Egypt. I mean, it's just, in other words, this whole idea that somehow I took these bribes and then was easy on the nation of Egypt. It's not. Now, that's just, by the way, a part of things. There's a commercial enterprise that had an interest in Menendez's work, and so he didn't. I didn't see him address that in his morning remarks, but I thought the easiest thing to perhaps point up the cornerstone of Menendez's remarks, and perhaps what we were all wondering about was, dude, what are gold bars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash doing in your closet? And so he explains it. Here's Bob Menendez.
30 years, I have withdrawn thousands of dollars in cash from my personal savings account, which I have kept for emergencies and because of the history of my family facing confiscation in Cuba. Now, this may seem old-fashioned, but these were monies drawn from my personal savings account based on the income that I have lawfully derived over those 30 years. I look forward to addressing other issues at trial. 4, I want to speak directly to the people of New Jersey.
This
As
is
I
essentially
these remarks. You're the reason why I have dedicated.
This is essentially just talking about how I've always represented the people of New Jersey. That's fine. I just wanted you to hear the gold bar thing. So essentially, he's saying, look, this is the way I did it. I know it may seem a little weird to you, but I took money out on a regular basis and I kept it. What happened in Cuba, of course, what he's referring to is essentially the seizing of assets and property, all assets, everything, seized by a communist dictatorship. And so if you've lived through that, or if that is your cultural experience, you essentially put away in different strategic places money that you may need if the government comes to seize your stuff or whatever. It's what you do. He's essentially suggesting that's his cultural history. You got to say something, and I guess...
it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
That's your Bob Menendez, yeah.
Don't you think you better have records then to back up all the deposits and all the withdrawals to show that those monies were indeed yours and where all that money came from? Right?
Kim makes a good point. Like, well, then it'll be easy for you to document the withdrawal of all of this money. Yeah.
Show me how you legally bought the gold bars. Show me all the documentation.
Yeah. It is easy to see if you've got it. So that's Menendez just this morning doubling down on his entire situation in the face of pretty significant headwinds legally. Now, I'll remind you that Menendez did skate on his last corruption trial, which I believe was 2017. And so it's possible that he feels, hey, man, let's call in the posse. It's time to, ride me out of town again. So that's the latest on Bob Menendez.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Democrat, by the way, I'll remind you, we're equal opportunity. We're an equal opportunity show when it comes to calling out this sort of thing. The stuff that's coming out about Donald Trump in this book on Milley is pretty amazing. It was stuff that we heard about, but boy, when you put it all together, it's really scary. And now that when I'm talking about Milley essentially redirecting the the ship of state toward magnetic north during the Trump administration, specifically after he lost the election. He was in touch with China saying, don't worry, we're going to make sure that we don't get on any kind of last-minute nuclear footing. It was a weird kind of back-channel way to reassure allies and reassure adversaries, in the case of China, that everything was still cool. Don't worry about Trump. I'm in charge, Milley said, and they can't do anything without me type thing. Well, Trump gets wind of this, of course, and he says that, essentially he says they should, in the old days, they'd hang Milley for something like this. So here's the latest. There's been a lot of writing. This is a piece in The Atlantic originally. And it was so good. I was tempted, I must tell you, I was tempted to read the entire thing to you. But what I found also interesting is that many have written about the piece, and I think smartly about it, to such that you can speak to what's going on. Sorry, I just hit my keyboard. I usually put my keyboard, excuse me.
Wow. Okay.
Put my keyboard over. What's that?
Nothing. It seems like your coffee cup display is growing.
I have... these coffee cups, what we did was we got stickers at the getmarkmerch.com.
Right.
And then we affixed some of those stickers to coffee cups. That's what's happened here. So I recommend that for those who... Now, we have the classic coffee cups here, which you can get at getmarkmerch.com. The money helps with the show, keep us on the air, that kind of thing. There it is. But there are also stickers on that page. You see them there, lower left, I think there it is. Mark Thompson Show sticker sheets. So if you get those stickers, you can put them on things like coffee cups.
I think
so you can build your own.
I might need those stickers. Does it come with the one of you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sheet.
I can stick you wherever.
You can stick me wherever.
On my dashboard on the car that you're riding along with me.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that. I'd love to ride along with you. Yeah. So,
I'm sorry. I derailed your discussion.
No, I love that you...
this thing has been dragging on and on and on.
I see. Well, I can see now. Just, Kim, while you would just...
This thing has been dragging on and on and on.
Please. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let me read you a little something. This is from... I thought this was really good. It's from Tom Nichols, who I would probably disagree with on a lot of policy. He's conservative. He's a never-Trumper, though, let's be fair. But the new piece from Jeffrey Goldberg is I think it's a cover story in The Atlantic on General Mark Milley. I think it's part of a book. Milley, of course, is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs during the last 16 months of Trump's presidency. And he suggests here what Milley saw as the nation's highest-ranking officer is a graphic warning of the existential danger America will be in should Trump return to office. Of course, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is the highest-ranking military position. Designated by law as the principal military advisor to the president, the Secretary of Defense, and the National Security Council, it is a post of vital national importance, but most Americans probably have no idea who serves in it at any given time. And yet, for almost 2 years, the safety of the United States and the sanctity of its Constitution may well have depended more than any American could have known on Mark Milley, a career Army officer who became the 20th chairman in late 2019. Milley's experiences in the waning days of the Trump administration should appall and alarm every sensible American. Milley served as chairman of the Joint Chiefs during the most fraught period of civil-military dysfunction in U.S. history. Then he references the Goldberg piece. By the way, you'll remember that Trump essentially cast Milley in the role because he thought he looked like a strong leader. He very much responds to the way people look, as you know. He wants to surround himself with people who look the part. Milley faced an unprecedented situation in which the president, horrendously addled by cognitive unfitness and moral derangement, that's a quote, was himself the greatest threat to the Constitution. If that sounds dramatic, consider what Milley's senior colleagues, career military men who served in the Trump White House, told the writer of that profile about the nightmare facing the chairman. Quote, Mark Milley had to contain the impulses of people who wanted to use the United States military in very dangerous ways. That's from retired Marine General John Kelly, who served as Trump's second chief of staff. Milley, for his part, was worried that Trump would try to overcome his electoral loss by creating a Reichstag moment, by sparking a foreign war, possibly, or by using the military against civilians. Army Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, who served as one of Trump's many hired and fired national security advisors, commented on the immensity of the challenge facing Milley by posing a terrifying hypothetical to the writer of the Milley profile.
That's really scary.
As chairman, you swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, but what if the commander-in-chief is undermining that Constitution? And the bigger question is, what would happen if millions of Americans didn't seem to care that he was undermining the Constitution? One of the incidents that's now getting some play and was remarked upon and was out there for a while was the incident involving Captain Luis Avila. The ceremony that welcomed Milley as the new chairman involved this Captain Luis Avila. He's going to sing God Bless America. He had 5 combat tours, this guy, okay? But he lost a leg in an IED attack in Afghanistan. And he suffered 2 heart attacks, 2 strokes, and brain damage as a result of his injuries fighting for the U.S. After Avila's performance, this is from the profile, Trump walked over to congratulate him, but then said to Milley, within earshot of several witnesses, quote, why do you bring people like that here? No one wants to see that. The wounded. Never let Avila appear in public again. That's what Trump told Milley. And, of course, Milley is this guy who's dedicated his life to military service. And he found this grotesque. You know, he was repulsed by this. But Trump did respect some military personnel, especially Eddie Gallagher, the Navy SEAL, who was court-martialed on multiple charges and whose own comrades testified to his bloodthirsty and reckless behavior. Do you remember? This is the Navy SEAL whose other military colleagues in his division as a Navy SEAL used to change the sight on his rifle so that it wouldn't be accurate because he fired at civilians so frequently. Now Trump met this guy, the Navy SEAL, and because this SEAL was court-martialed on multiple charges, and again, his own comrades testified to his bloodthirsty and reckless behavior. And he felt he should intervene, Trump did, in the question of whether Gallagher, despite all of this, should keep his SEAL pin, a decision traditionally made by fellow SEALs. Milley tried to stop Trump from interfering with this important tradition. Trump called him a hero, said he didn't understand why he was being punished. Milley said because he slit the throat of a wounded prisoner. The guy was going to die anyway, Trump said. It's a war crime, Milley protested. Trump refused to see what the big deal, in quotes, was all about. Quote, you guys, and here he meant combat soldiers, are all just killers. What's the difference? Gallagher got to keep his pin. So all of this continues, and the point that Nichols made, I thought, was a good one. And it was essentially, all of this stuff is going on, and there really is now, with Trump calling for the execution of Milley, he says, in the old days, we'd execute somebody for speaking up like this. it's falling on a nation that sort of has tuned out a lot of the stuff that Trump is about. And it's argued by many writers that Trump represents this clear threat to a democracy, and it's clearly an issue that is a tree falling in the forest. There are very few people there to talk about that tree falling. And so, again, Friday night, after we got off the air, this Milley stuff bubbled to the surface. And Donald Trump, the leading candidate to be the next president, insinuated that America's top general deserves to be put to death. It was yet something that threw the news cycle over the weekend. Now we're back to Monday. It just sits there. It sits there orphaned because of other stuff that we're talking about. None of the nation's front pages blared, "Trump suggests that top general deserves execution," or "Former president accuses general of treason." He said it's a treasonous act. That stuff that Milley says, and that what Milley was doing, back-channeling to the Chinese, for example. Trump's rhetoric is dangerous, not just because it's the exact sort that incites violence against public officials, but also because it shows just how numb the country has grown toward threats more typical of broken authoritarian regimes. We've become used to it, in effect. The United States is not just careening toward a significant risk of political violence around the 2024 presidential election. It's also mostly oblivious to where it's headed. So this goes on, but essentially I think the point is a good one. You have this guy who's screaming like a mob boss to his minions and calling out violence against prosecutors, calling out violence against judges, it's such, it's rancor on one level, but it's so out of bounds that one wonders whether or not everybody's just become so used to us. Oh, it's just grandpa screaming. But it's not grandpa screaming. It's the guy who has a really good shot at becoming the next president. Now, you can say, well, really, Mark? I mean, people aren't going to vote for that guy. Well, I mean, he's leading in national polls. Again, you go state by state. One never knows. And, Biden could be one slip up away from Trump accidentally getting his way in, or he legitimately could come in the front door. Be that as it may, put the election to the side, you have more and more calls for violence. People are having to move out of their homes. You got the Secretary of State in Georgia. He's worried about his security. I mean, these people have had to hire private security or petition for security protection. So, and at the top of it all is this guy, Trump, who is getting away with this, even with a gag order in place. And I think this stuff is pretty disturbing. So the idea is, they have this this notion that if you call for enough defense from the mob, that there'll be little bits and pieces of violence that will likely flare up. That's kind of nation we are. We're not really the Civil War nation of our history. We're sort of a nation of little pockets of terrorists and paramilitary groups. More and more, I think that's likely the way it would show itself. And so in that way, those little pockets of violence create anxiety in the public. They can create anxiety to vote. They can create anxiety about public service, about volunteer service. You can see how this works. And, that's really how the Third Reich was born, with a minority that was armed and exerted tremendous muscle in the streets. Anyway, look, I know that I'll get a lot of blowback on this, but it's just interesting how the rhetoric of Trump, the calls for violence and all the rest, can just sit there and be completely orphaned. It amazes me, that it's not bigger news. But the treason. What is this, Chris? I don't know. You guys can tell. I can't Chris says treason is when you invite an invasion, isn't it? Let me tell you, treason is an interpretive term. It really is. You hear it used all the time, but it's interpretive. But it's not when you're inviting an invasion, I don't think. I don't know what that refers to, but that's certainly not in the definition to my knowledge. But it's truly interpretive. It's exactly like high crimes and misdemeanors when they impeach a president or impeach anyone, and they talk about high crimes and misdemeanors. What are high crimes and misdemeanors? That's interpretive. It's a little like looking at the Bible. You know those guys who can pull the Bible verse that best serves them? It's all interpretive. That's really what treason is, and that's it. So when we talk about those things, one has to be aware of that. So sorry to be so Trump heavy, but I thought that's big news. I mean, the idea of, executing a joint chief like Mark Milley, and can I leave him with one bit of happier news, Albert? Do you mind if I leave some? I want to, I like.
I'd love that, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
There's a big announcement, and I'm kind of excited about it. I don't know if you saw it, Albert. It came to me from shadow producer Calvin Wong, who points out that Hulk Hogan is going to be married.
Oh.
Yeah. Come on, it's pretty exciting. Less than 2 months. Yes. He is, I guess he has become married. Yeah. According to reports, Hogan and his lovely bride, Sky Daly, is that her real name? I love that. It sounds like Sky Daly sounds like someone who works at the Daily Planet in the Superman episode. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hogan and Sky Daly wed in an intimate ceremony in Florida. How was your ceremony intimate, Kim? You and David, yeah? Was it? Nice little smaller thing? That's nice.
Yeah, it was on a beach in Maui.
Oh.
Very small amount of people there, destination wedding. Yeah.
Brooke, who is Hogan's daughter, not in attendance.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
What is Hulk Hogan's first name, anyone? Do you know? I'm going to say not many people know it. What's Hulk Hogan's real first name?
So it's not Hulk, huh?
What is Hulk Hogan's first name?
I see a couple of correct answers.
I do see a couple. Albert is right. The answer is Terry. Well done, man. Well, that was our audience. Very. Is it Leonard?
Mark, I always wanted to go to like a store that sold those Hulkamaniac shirts,
Oh, yeah, the kind that they're like torn a little bit at the top?
Yeah, I always wanted to go to the store, try one on, and just rip it in the store and just like, oh, sorry, I'll just pay you for this, for the inconvenience. So I always wanted to do that.
The proposal was at a restaurant in Tampa, Florida. And he wasn't 100% confident that she would say yes, says who? Nerves were on edge. There she is. There they are, the Hulkster and the new bride.
I'm surprised we didn't hit the millionaire music to ask how old Sky Daly is.
Oh, yes. Oh, wait a minute. Thank you, Albert.
I feel like that's something
I'll remind you.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan is 70. How old is his new wife? His new wife, Sky Daly. Courtney's just slipped into the studio. You hang on a second, Courtney.
She's a yoga instructor.
Hell yeah, she is.
She is. Very flexible.
Yeah.
What, Courtney? Do you want to guess how old Sky? If you know, then you have to recuse yourself.
40.
40, says Courtney. What are the other guesses? I see Pinky says 53. Anybody want to put some guesses up there? Anybody want to put guesses up on the screen? Nobody does? Okay. Pinky says 53, yeah.
Do you think he wore a fancy bandana for the wedding? Like an embellished bandana?
A dress bandana, he did. Yeah. if that was a way of like sideswiping Hulk Hogan, how dare you and how un-American of you. Joseph says 45. How old is his bride? 35. Albert, do you have the actual retail age?
I do.
The actual retail age will be now revealed as we look at he does have his formal bandana on. Can you see it?
There you go.
It's a black bandana.
Yeah.
Albert, how old is Sky Daly, Hulk Hogan's new wife?
Yeah, Mrs. Hogan. Mrs. Hogan is now 45.
45!
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someone got it right.
Yeah, a few people got it right, I think.
Yeah.
Impressive. Well,
I hope he hyped up the crowd too in very Hulk fashion. He did the hand to the
let me tell you something,
thing.
brother. I'm here to do this wedding, and we're going to do it right.
You're going to eat your vitamins, say your prayers.
This is the one, brother.
Did he?
How many?
What marriage is this?
Albert, what marriage is it? What marriage is this for Hulk Hogan, everybody? How many times has Hulk, this is counting this one, how many times has Hulk Hogan been married? Albert, you need to research this while we look at the guesses.
Oh, I'm going to say 4.
Oh, you think this is 4th?
Yeah.
Oh, John Watson agrees with you.
There you go.
What do you think, Kim?
I don't know. I'm not really up on my Hulk Hogan marriage news.
What?
None of us know, Kim. None of us know. That's the whole idea.
I'm gonna say it's his 3rd marriage.
Huge in Japan agrees with you. 3rd marriage.
There you go.
I don't know either. And I'm going to also agree with Kim that I believe this is his 3rd, is what I'm going to guess. Are the honeymoon pictures going to be leaked, Pete? Yeah, he had that whole thing where the... Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
What publication was it?
I know, but he was with his friend's wife or something. Anyway, 3 seems to be a... Albert, do you have the actual retail number of times?
He started his first marriage in 1983, Linda Claridge, then again with Jennifer McDaniel in 2010, and then Sky Daly, 2022.
Yes! Everybody who went for...
That's right.
Everybody who went for 3, you are winners.
Wow.
Well done. Man, the Hulkster, he is... busy. Met him one time doing a morning show in Los Angeles. I'm out there, he's promoting something, and I was there, helping him promote it or whatever. They sent me out there. And he was very nice.
Yeah.
I remember he came like charging up to me and with his hand out, and he goes, "Hey, brother, Terry." Yeah, nice to meet you, man. I'm Mark. Nice to meet you. That was it. That's my one big Hulk Hogan story.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll change the ending. I'll jazz it up in the
No, I was
future.
just thinking about the name Terry. Like, it's a far departure from Hulk.
Yeah, well, he's the real thing, though. Albert will tell you. Albert's a WWE fan. He's a real fan of pro wrestling. Are you not, Albert?
Yeah, huge fan. A little younger days, but like I still keep my eyes and my tabs on it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Hulk's a legend. He's in the
Albert,
Mount
he
Rushmore
is a legend, exactly.
of wrestlers. Yeah.
Albert, I'm glad you're participating in this conversation. I feel we shared a lot here. I'm wondering what you would like to do. I have Courtney standing by with Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. I also have Kim standing by with a news capsule. Could we do a news capsule and then Courtney's Mark's Murder Monday? Why not?
Yeah, as long as Courtney's okay, it's going to spill over than the normal time. But I
Courtney's
think we have enough.
busy. Courtney,
are you okay with that, Courtney, or not?
Courtney's a
I mean,
real
what do I
job.
work here?
Right. I mean, maybe we should do
I'm
her
kidding,
first
I'm fine.
because
No, I'm fine.
No, she's okay. No,
somebody
she's,
has places to go, people to see over there.
All right, well, but she can hang for a minute or two. And thank you to Pamela Kirby for a $10 super sticker. I want to give you a big shout out. Big shout out to Pamela. We are crowdfunded, so appreciate all the super stickers, super chats. We'll always read a super chat. Pinky. $1 a day, baby.
Big shout out.
Yeah, big shout out. Love it. Thank you all. So we'll go to a news capsule and then Mark's Murder Mystery Monday as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, it is your Mark Thompson news capsule. I'm Kim McAllister. Swallow it up. Here it is. Governor Gavin Newsom and Governor Ron DeSantis. They will be debating in late November. Fox News host Sean Hannity will moderate the red state versus blue state debate November 30th in Georgia. The two governors have publicly feuded, criticized each other's policies over the last few years, too. Hannity first raised the prospect of a debate during a sit-down interview with Governor Newsom in June. The event will mark the first time the two governors will face off in a debate. Wonder how they feel about this at the White House. Oh. There he is. It is, speaking of the White House, Joe Biden and the House Oversight Committee will be holding its first hearing on the impeachment inquiry into President Biden on Thursday. The hearing will focus on constitutional and legal questions around the president's alleged involvement in his son Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings during his time as vice president. The president has denied any wrongdoing in this matter. And former President Trump is voicing his concern over Pennsylvania's switch to automatic voter registration. He wrote in a Truth Social post that the system is a, quote, disaster for the election of Republicans. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro announced last week the state would take on the system before the 2024 election. So things are changing it up, and the former president is not a big fan of that. There's some other changes going on in Long Beach, where apparently they're changing the speed limit. A lot of people pretty upset about this one. And here's the speed limit picture, because we can't do the story without the photo, right? There it is. Yeah. So this Southern California city plans to lower speed limits on more than 100 residential streets, including some major thoroughfares. The city of Long Beach beginning to phase in speed limits of 20 miles per hour or less on residential streets. Heavily trafficked roads will have existing speed limits lowered by 5 miles an hour. City officials say it's being done primarily to reduce accidents and save lives, but they say the lower speed limits will also reduce noise and encourage more walking and bicycling. Do we think that's going to work? I don't know. No?
Usually put in those, they've got those speed bumps everywhere. And we have them in Los Angeles everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about residential streets now. It seems to be the kind of the approach that's most, rather than lowering the posted speed, it seems to be, I think they try first lowering the posted speed and then they try these speed bumps. But all I'm trying to say is that they're definitely trying to do all they can to slow people down.
I mean,
does it work to change the posted
thing.
speed limit? Yeah. I don't know. I would say no, probably, but
I think people are still going to whip on through, and maybe with the lessening of the speed limit, it then becomes just a giant speed trap, the whole city.
Right.
Maybe they
exactly.
need money.
I mean,
maybe they're like,
listen.
How can we?
I've told you before
get some cash into this place.
Washington, D.C. and Maryland. They are, because I go back and see my parents all the time, they are just monuments to speed traps. They take 4-lane roads. There's a street called Connecticut Avenue. It's a massive, massive thoroughfare. 4 lanes on each side, okay? And the speed limit, you're looking at it, 30. Now, how can you possibly drive 30 with this wide open road? Well, they have cameras up and down that road, and they have cameras that are covering that entire area and beyond. That's just one example, and it's all just to raise money.
Yep,
so,
got to bring that in somehow.
Yeah.
The United Auto Workers will be joined by President Biden on the picket line this week. He will travel to Michigan tomorrow to stand in solidarity with the men and women of the UAW as they fight for a fair share of the value they helped create. Comes as the union recently expanded its strike to 20 states after no substantial progress was made with the big 3 automakers on a new contract. Yeah. President on the picket lines. Meanwhile, in union news, it has been months, but the Writers Guild of America and Hollywood's top studios finally reached a tentative agreement in an effort to resolve the ongoing writers' strike. While union members still need to formally vote to end the walkout, actors will continue their strike until the SAG-AFTRA union also reaches a deal with studios. So part of Hollywood coming back to work, part of Hollywood not so much.
Hope that it'll be instructive, or in some way it will help, break the logjam on the SAG-AFTRA strike also. But
it would be nice to see that. Yeah, we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see what the particular details of the Writers Guild deal, what they are, and whether that will pertain to what SAG-AFTRA gets as well.
Agreed.
Students can get a bachelor's degree at a community college in California. Did you know that? As enrollment dwindles, many of the 116 schools in the state are taking advantage of a new law that allows them to offer degrees that would lead to high-demand jobs. In 2021, a state bill was signed into law that allows community colleges to offer specialized degrees. Now, the degrees aren't supposed to duplicate what's being offered at a Cal State or UC campus. The four-year colleges have complained that some of the degrees are too similar, but some community colleges plan to add 30 new bachelor's programs each year for the next few years. So you can get in there and get your bachelor's degree at your local community college. Who knew?
Yeah.
Right?
Like that.
Yeah, why not?
As it should be.
I don't know if you heard about this guy. Your news capsule is coming to a close, but I will say this fellow... no. Man in a golf cart with a dog in his lap led police on a slow speed chase through the San Fernando Valley. Happened last night. Police responded to reports of an assault with a deadly weapon. They believe the golf cart was stolen. After evading pursuing officers by squeezing into small spaces, the driver of the golf cart eventually got pinned between a big rig and a 7-Eleven in Valley Glen. He was arrested without further incident, and the dog in his lap was taken to the Los
My
Angeles
bad. I'm sorry.
County shelter.
Man.
I'm telling you. And lastly, there's something interesting is up for auction. 2 tickets for seats at the Ford Theater where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated have sold at auction. Originally 75 cents a piece. These tickets were for the play Our American Cousin on April 14th, 1865, the same night that the nation's 16th president was shot. The tickets were auctioned off over the weekend in Boston, selling for more than $262,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have, in a way, guessed more.
Really?
But that's still a lot of money.
$262,000? I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to you price that stuff. It all seems priceless. Our neighbor is a huge collector and historian around Lincoln. And he has, doesn't he, Courtney? He has pieces of Lincoln's hair and, I mean, hang on. Isn't that right? Yeah.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, he has. Doesn't he have some locks of Lincoln's hair?
Yeah, he has locks of his hair. He has a piece of the blanket that his body was wrapped in.
How do you get that?
With his blood allegedly on it. I don't know. He's a big collector. He was, I think, the largest collector in the world of Charles Dickens. He just...
he's got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He has also the fist that Lincoln. Remember that?
But it's like the life fist, not
the life
death
cast.
the cast, because it was done while he was preparing for something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a lot of different.
There it is.
That's cool.
That's the lottery. Ticket.
Wow.
$262,000. Wow.
Wow.
That's the ticket.
Not fake. That's real.
Yeah. That's the Ford's Theater ticket for the Friday performance.
Yeah. History-making performance.
Yeah.
Well, this report is crowdfunded, which means we do rely on you. You can check us out at themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com, or themarkthompsonshow.com, whichever you prefer. The Patreon link, the PayPal link, it's all there. It is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
What in the world are you doing?
Feels great.
When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
This thing has been dragging on and on and on.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It's our Monday show. Thank you. And as I reveal myself, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Albert, if you are at the ready with our modest production offering, I think it's time to start Mark's Murder Mystery Monday.
Welcome to Mark's Murder Mystery Monday.
And your host of Mark's Murder Mystery Monday is my other half. She is lovely, puts up with me, and I with her. Courtney, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Very, very cool. Courtney, thank you.
Welcome for having me.
Welcome to the festivities.
Yeah, I really like that. Is it bumper music?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, do you? Good.
That last one before the Mark's Murder Mystery, which
you liked it, right? You like the drum stuff? Okay, well, we'll make a note of that. Albert will note that, and we'll use more of it, or use it strategically, or something. So, thank you for that,
Albert. Thank you.
Now, you always come. Let me just say one thing about what you do, and it's very difficult because you are such a student of this true crime world. The difficult part comes in that you try to find, this is interesting, I think, Kim, it's interesting because there's a challenge. On the one hand, Kim, Courtney wants to do stuff that relates to the Bay Area, to where a lot of our listeners and viewers are, or relates to some high-profile case, perhaps from the Bay Area, or she wants to do something that relates to the zeitgeist of the moment, that traces back to stuff in the news right now, or the reopening of a case, something like that. If she does Bay Area stuff, we always get emails like, oh, please don't do any more Bay Area stuff. It reminds me of, a tough time, which is legit. I mean, people have PTSD from whatever crime,
It's true, but it's good. It's important to remember as well.
Yeah, and I think also, she's trying to pick relevant stuff for us, not only interesting, but relevant. And so, Courtney, I sympathize with how hard it is to try to find the thing that's going to land with everyone. So I encourage you increasingly not to pay any attention to any of that and just do the stuff that you want. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for that introductory.
No, I was just explaining that it's a tough target.
No, it's tough. I get a lot of emails asking for Bay Area stories, and you have been kind enough to shield me from any of the sort of maybe less than happy feedback. So it's a tough thing to make a decision around and try to serve the interests of everybody, and that's what I'm trying to do. Oftentimes I'm looking at stories that are happening right now, so that if somebody's interested, they can
follow up if they want to.
Yeah. So most of the time, that's why I'm connecting these stories with this segment. So
now, tell me where we are today and what we're going to be doing.
It's a great segue for the story that we're doing today.
Okay.
Which is not a news story. Mm-hmm. It's Natalie Holloway.
Oh.
And I think a lot of people know Natalie Holloway. But what is interesting is that in the last 2 to 3 days, an email has been discovered that was sent by Joran Vandersloot talking about how he and his father rented a boat and disposed of the body.
Wow.
Yes. But I'm going to go back quickly and just
remind us what Natalie
remind you
Holloway.
what this story is, and then we can talk about this email.
We're looking at a beautiful picture of her and her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Natalie was 18. She was living in Alabama. She was living with her mom and her stepfather. She had just graduated high school on May 24th, 2005. She went missing on May 30th. So the entire class, there was 130 kids. There were 11 chaperones. They all went to Aruba to enjoy the graduation, their high school graduation. And on the last evening before they were to leave, which was May 30th, Natalie goes out with her friends. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to just walk through the visuals. So perfect. So this is actually Natalie and her father and mother. And I wanted to show this slide because they have been very active in trying to find what happened with Natalie. And actually, the body has never been discovered, but Natalie's body's never been discovered. So her father had her declared legally dead in 2012. But if you go to the next slide, Natalie is out with her friends. They go to this club called, what is it? Carlos and Charlie's. And they were hanging out with a lot of tourists, a lot of locals. I think American tourists make close to like up to 80% of tourism in Aruba or something crazy like that, at least at the time. But there were a lot of tourists there, but they were hanging out with these locals, and one of them happened to be Joran Vandersloot. And so Natalie is seen leaving Carlos and Charlie's in a car with Joran Vandersloot and two of his friends who are brothers. And so they leave. If you go to the next slide, this is the last picture this was the last picture of Natalie. So Natalie is there on the left-hand side, slightly lighted versus the other people in the photo. So this is the last image of her. So she's seen in a car. Now her friends saw her in the car because the windows were down and she was leaving with them. What transpired after is there's just never been clarity around. So the two brothers say that first they said that they dropped Natalie off at the hotel and they dropped Joran off at his house. Then they said they dropped Natalie off at the beach with Joran to hang out with Joran. Then, Joran said he was at his house, but then he also said he went to the beach with Natalie. So what actually happened, there's still no clarity around. But in fact, the next morning when everybody gathers at the hotel and they're supposed to leave for their flight, Natalie is not there. And so if you go to the next slide, they begin to look for Natalie. And they're interviewing, of course, these three young men who are the last to be seen with
Albert,
her.
the next slide, please.
There
he is. Yeah.
So
who are these two guys?
This is Joran. On the right-hand side, the younger man is Joran. And then on the left-hand side is Joran's father, Paul. And Paul actually was in the middle of becoming a judge. They're both of Dutch descent. The Aruba is a Dutch
protectorate or territory.
Territory, thank you. So while he wasn't from Aruba, he was of Dutch descent, so he was very much a local there. So if you go to the next slide, a bunch of missing posters are put all around the island. There are hundreds of people that are looking for Natalie. Natalie's parents fly in. They are, working with the Aruban authorities to try to find Natalie, and nobody comes up with anything. As I mentioned, there's like all of these sort of misrepresentations of what happened on that night. So on December 18th, 2007, the Aruban authorities close the case. And they say, like, at this point, we don't have enough evidence.
She's just a missing person, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They reopened the case February of 2008 when video footage of Joran Vandersloot is surfaced. And he talks about how Natalie died on the morning of her disappearance and that a friend of his disposed the body. Then after an interview with him, he said he actually had done something truly, obviously even more horrific with Natalie. He claims he sold her into sexual slavery, meaning he's just coming up with these wild stories and none of them are true. And he's absolutely lying to journalists and the authorities who are interviewing him about what happened on that night. In 2010, he is convicted of the murder of another woman who he met in Peru. And he murdered this woman in a hotel room after meeting her in a casino. And in 2012, he is sentenced to 28 years for the murder of that woman.
So it quacks like the same thing.
Exactly. Now, there's a lot of other things that happen, but this year, in June of this year, he's actually extradited from Peru to the U.S. on charges of extortion and wire fraud. And here's what happened. He tried to get $250,000 out of Natalie's parents, blackmailing them, saying that if they paid him, he would tell them where her body was. And so they gave him an upfront payment of $25,000, and then he started to backtrack out of the whole thing. All of that was communicated through an email account on Yahoo. And so last week, in looking at that email account, an email was found wherein just days after the disappearance of Natalie Holloway, Yorn wrote to a friend, David G., and I quote, "My dad got a boat 2 days later. We went for a ride and took care of things. That's all I'm going to say." And so this is the latest evidence that has come to light through other charges that he's being prosecuted for in the U.S. around the extortion and the wire fraud.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is his booking photo. Currently, he's in Alabama. And it's an incredible story because it's just so very clear that he murdered this woman. And it's so unfortunate that there's not been enough evidence to prosecute him for his crimes. And now, he's murdered the second woman. And if he had been charged with Natalie's murder, he would not have had the opportunity to kill this poor other woman. So
it's just unreal.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And it was something that really captivated the U.S. And it was just prior to social media being a channel for like discovery and communication. And so it predates that a little bit. But this is in fact the newest information. By the way, too, I don't know why you're using your email for all this stuff. It just seems really poorly planned.
Well, yeah. I don't, I don't know why you're killing people either. So it's definitely a disconnect. Courtney, a fascinating development.
Yeah.
Always pretty sure that he was the guy, but now you're just saying, wow, the constellation of evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, he has somewhat constantly said that he was involved with her death.
Right.
But it's all been these fabricated stories that don't make sense. And there's not enough evidence to prosecute him.
Yeah.
This seems to be something that, let's hope, will bring him to justice. So
that is Mark's Murder Mystery Monday for today.
Mark's Murder Mystery Monday on the Mark Thompson Show.
Courtney, you have, I think you've comported yourself so well, and you gave us information. It was a quick hit.
I mean, it's a complicated story because there's a lot that's happened, unfortunately, with this really crazy man who has,
You came with some visuals. You came with some details. You went back. You filled us back in on what was going on.
Yeah. Now I'm going to leave.
All right. Well, always hate to see you go, but it's Courtney, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Quite special. Really, really did like it. Not necessarily a fan of even that genre, but I like what she does with it. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
We have, I'll mention again, bottom of the hour, we have Karen Dawn joining us. We do an animal segment on Mondays, and I've asked for there to be good news in everything that she has. So, animals are stressed in our culture and worldwide, and just as we are stressed, and so I know there are those stories to tell, but there are also some good news stories, and she's got one of them today. So, Kim?
Yes.
I have kind of a weird... Let me tell you this weird story before I double back to the one thing that we did advertise, which is out of the Trump White House. Yeah. Sorry to be so Trump heavy, but this new book, and between all the books, there's a profile of Milley. There's which is the Atlantic profile. There's the book on Cassidy Hutchinson's life in the Trump White House. There are more revelations, but right now, before I get to that, I have something else.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The Bay Area dude who admitted that he faked cancer to get a GoFundMe going so that he could raise enough money to buy an entry into the World Series of Poker was the answer we were looking for. Yes, he is someone who did it successfully, worked a big bluff in poker terms, and he put together this story about how he had cancer, and he set up the GoFundMe about his colon cancer, and he got the money to enter the World Series of Poker. Now,
ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Yeah, it's an idea that did work. He was bounced out of the World Series, for those who care, within the first few hours, apparently. But now, the revelations about the fact that he did not have colon cancer and that he was essentially concocting this story. He raised up to $50,000 in charity donations. This story about Rob Mercer of Vallejo is bubbling to the surface, and he is admitting to the lie. I did lie about having colon cancer. I don't have colon cancer. I use that to cover my situation, he said. What I did was wrong. I shouldn't have told people I have colon cancer. I did that just as a spur-of-the-moment thing when someone asked me what kind of cancer I had. Oh.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
He hasn't quite said that. Yeah.
The surprising thing about this is that you get caught in a lie, you admit that you've lied, and then you say, oh, and P.S., I'm keeping all the cash that I've raised. I'm not giving any of it back. Well, GoFundMe is saying, yeah, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, Kim is exactly right. GoFundMe is saying, don't worry, everybody, we're getting the money. The total value of donations to Mercer estimated to be between $30,000 and $50,000. Mercer needed just $10,000 to enter that main event in poker. He also took in other donations, including a multi-night stay at the Bellagio Hotel Suite. You know, that's where he was staying for the World Series. The Bellagio is a 5-star resort. Doesn't list its suite prices, but easily over $1,000 a night. So with a $10,000 buy-in, he was able to, essentially hook himself up. GoFundMe said it did refund all the donations given to Mercer following his admission. GoFundMe has zero tolerance for the misuse of our platform and takes swift action against those who exploit the generosity of our community.
Ta-ta.
Yeah, well, so they got the money back. But while Mercer admitted to lying about his colon cancer diagnosis, he did say to the Las Vegas Journal that he believes he suffers from breast cancer now. It is undiagnosed officially, but he just believes that he's
Not
suffering
that that's
from it.
a funny thing, but it's like, it's undiagnosed. How do you know? You don't know.
Well, I mean, it's
all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
It's actually not clear as crystal is the point. But his scam, and I'm going to call it that because I think that's what it is, his scam was found out, and he is done. And next time he wants to play in the World Series of Poker main event, he'll probably have to come up the money on his own. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, I do have revelations, and I'm sorry to make this sort of a Trump-heavy show today. We always try to, get away sometimes from all the Trump news. But the drumbeat of what's happening in America seems to oddly lead back to Donald Trump. And his right-hand person was Mark Meadows. And in the new book from Cassidy Hutchinson, who was Mark Meadows' right-hand person, she says that Meadows burned so many documents before leaving the White House that the then chief of staff's wife, that is Meadows' wife, complained about dry cleaning bills to remove the bonfire smell. This is in her new book. She describes a White House steeped in paranoia. The ex-Meadows aide said that staffers feared deep state interception when it came to document disposal. She says that Meadows burned files in his fireplace, which ran up his dry cleaning costs.
You have a fireplace in his White House office?
I know. I guess it's...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you're the chief of staff. You get the fireplace. All right. And Lord knows he needed it, apparently.
The memoir is called Enough. It'll be released 2 days from now.
The Trump White House when the shredder just isn't good enough.
It's true. Accused former New York City mayor and ex-Trump personal attorney Rudy Giuliani was accused of groping Hutchinson, as you know. She also accused John Eastman, another Trump attorney, of watching Giuliani as the ex-mayor put his hand on her, under her skirt, under her blazer and skirt. So she's got a lot of stuff in this book. While testifying before the House last year, she spoke of her exasperation at what she described as Meadows' lack of urgency during the Capitol riot, remember? I start to get frustrated, she said, because I sort of felt like I was looking at a bad car accident about to happen where you can't stop it, but you want to be able to do something. I remember thinking in that moment, Mark needs to snap out of this, and I don't know how to snap him out of this, but he needs to care. Mark Meadows has had no comment. That is how much they were burning docks and doing what they were doing in the Trump White House. As the Trump prosecutions move forward, threats and concerns increase. This new piece just today. Criminal cases proceed against the former president. Heated rhetoric and anger among his supporters have the authorities worried about the risk of political dissent becoming deadly. This is a little what I was talking about in the first hour. This is from the New York Times. At the federal courthouse in Washington, a woman called the chambers of the judge assigned to the election interference case against former President Trump and said that if Mr. Trump were not reelected next year, quote, "we are coming to kill you." At the FBI, agents have reported concerns about harassment and threats being directed at their families and intensifying anger among Trump supporters about what they consider to be the weaponization of the Justice Department. And what's being said at the FBI is, hey, we didn't sign up for this, and my kids didn't sign up for this, the way we're being doxxed and pursued by this angry mob. I mean, these are cult-driven jihadists, and they are ready to take retribution and produce violence. This is in the promises that they are making in voicemails and other communications. As the prosecutions of Trump have accelerated, so too have threats against law enforcement authorities, judges, elected officials, and others. And so they go on to talk about what essentially is this rallying cry that these indictments have produced. The indictments of Mr. Trump are, quote, "the most important current drivers of political violence we now have." That's from Robert Pape, who's a political scientist who studies political violence. He's from the University of Chicago. Other studies, though, have found that any effects from the indictments dissipated quickly, that there's little evidence of any increase in the numbers of Americans supportive of violent response. This is what I was saying. I think there'll be one-offs. I think we're that kind of country that produces that kind of violence. I'm not saying that that's not awful. I mean, there could be, all sorts of serious, violent incidents. But what I'm trying to say is if you're worried about, ducking down in your bedroom because this flank of paramilitary are coming up your street, I don't think that that's really the kind of country that we are. That doesn't mean that there isn't all this scary stuff going on. I don't want to, but I am saying, look, I'm scared to go into Walgreens because I'm worried that, somebody who's armed and angry or off their meds or whatever is going to, take out a bunch of us. So there's always that. But I'm just trying to say in terms of political organized violence, I think J6 is one of the first cases of it really, approaching a level where it was really quite dangerous. And the truth is that there was plenty of intelligence to suggest that that was going to happen. It was the Trump White House and the Trump government. It's not Nancy Pelosi who kept the reinforcements from coming, as you're well aware. Yeah. So there is sufficient strength on the part of government to push back any kind of a threat of violence of the sort that we saw on January 6th. But what I would say is, but when the government is the person who's animating that violence, specifically Donald Trump, that's a different story because he controls all the levers of power. And essentially, he's talking about using those levers of power to perpetrate all manner of fealty to his regime. He wants to, cancel MSNBC. He views these various outlets that he finds disagree with a lot of what he said. He views them as unpatriotic, even treasonous. So you see how you can use these terms, for your own ends. But the rise in threat and political violence, many say, is a real thing. Sorry,
it's shocking how you can have all these things mounting up, right? I mean, the pledge now to investigate MSNBC because he doesn't like the way that he was portrayed on Meet the Press, right?
Right.
He said things that they publicized. He said them. They didn't put words in his mouth. He said them, and now he's upset about it. So this is a scary dude.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough times and weird times, But if you talk to the people in the cult of Trump, they say, quote, "I like him even better now."
It's crazy.
Trump's true believers keep the faith. Millions of Democrats and independents view Trump's time in office as a disaster, but for supporters, it's his biggest asset. As soon as President Trump is back in the White House, this 55-year-old handyman said, "If we don't get him back in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue where he belongs, we're in a mess, man. That's why I'm voting for President Trump. That's why I drove 9 hours to get here." This is to Missouri to be at one of the Trump rallies. It was, they describe this intense. We have Michael Schur here regularly on Fridays. He reports from a lot of these places. But the I Love Trump t-shirts, Trump, still plays USA. He Make America Great Again is still he still seems to have consolidated all of that. But that, while the media, I think, ignores that, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to be at every Trump rally, but I think ignores the rhetoric, which is so incendiary, which is a ding word. I think that's something that could legit, be talked about more in American news media. I want to take a news break. Mm-hmm. Let Kim spread her wings. So excited that the deal looks like it's struck for WGA. I think it's a great day if we can use that as a template in any way to end the strike after SAG and get so much of the community that depends on that industry, the entertainment industry, back to work, I want to take a quick break for Kim's news, and then I will be back. It is a day that brings in Karen Dawn with animal news, but I have a pretty big story before that about a measurement that is astounding. It's a measurement from the southern hemisphere, from South America, and it's crazy. It's off the scale. We'll get to that a little bit later, as I say, after Kim's news. Smash the like button.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
We've got Albert here.
Albert, thank you.
We've got Kim here. We have you here. That's everybody. So, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by the fine people at Coachella Valley Coffee. We'll tell you all about the Mark Thompson Show discount in mere moments. But first, this is Mr. Menendez, and he today is refusing to resign. He's saying today he expects to be exonerated on federal corruption charges, as you heard Mark say earlier. Yeah. The 69-year-old Democrat speaking publicly for the first time since he and his wife were both indicted last week. Federal prosecutors allege Menendez received cash, gold bars, and other bribes to protect local businessmen and benefit the Egyptian government. He says, not only will I not resign, I'll be running again.
Seriously, what the
Oh, American support for Ukraine and its war with Russia seems largely split along party lines. A new ABC News Washington Post survey released yesterday finds 41% asked think the United States is doing too much to support Ukraine, up from 33% in February. Half said the U.S. is helping the right amount or not enough. Broken down by party affiliation, 58% of Republicans think the U.S. is doing too much, compared with 22% of Democrats. So this is another one of those right along party line situation, right?
Interesting how the parties have migrated to these positions. You know what I mean? I don't think it was that way right at the beginning of the war.
No,
you know?
And why? I mean, it's an invasion of a foreign country. You're for that? Okay.
Well, I mean, and it's not just any foreign country, right? I mean, it's the breadbasket of Europe. It's right on the doorstep of a bunch of NATO countries. It's a country that was leaning toward democracy. It's a country that, I mean, maybe more than just a lean. It's a country that has had problems, I mean, massive problems with corruption. But yeah, this was a clear aggressive takeover, and So, what's interesting, at least in this country, in terms of our disposition toward it, is the way that the Republican position has now migrated to this place that you just described. It wasn't there originally.
People will be able to order more of those free COVID-19 tests online starting today. The federal government is relaunching its program to provide free COVID tests now that most insurance companies aren't covering the cost with the expiration of the pandemic emergency declaration this last spring. Each household can order up to 4 tests online at covidtests.gov.
Straight up right in, no problem.
There you go. A little bit of wine on a Monday afternoon, perhaps. The California Agricultural Relations Board confirms it's investigating a vineyard management company based in Calistoga. The investigation was launched September 8th, 1 week after farm workers filed a complaint against Dos Viñas Vineyard Management. The workers say they were fired after requesting a raise of $1 per hour and asking about their sick leave. The group initially filed wrongful termination claims through Santa Rosa-based North Bay Jobs with Justice, which advocates for workers' rights. So tell me about my sick pay and give me $1 extra an hour. I'm sorry. You're fired. You're out.
That is unreal.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol.
Well, there's alcohol involved with them, but that is a brutal.
If that
reality.
is indeed the case, I mean, you start asking for a little bit of something and get slapped right down. So, I don't know. Okay, let's talk about San Francisco reparations. This story just coming out. San Francisco's African American Reparations Advisory Committee submitted their reparations recommendations last week to the Board of Supervisors. Advocates are urging the supervisors to act. The recommendations include a one-time payment of up to $5 million, guaranteed home ownership, back pay for unpaid labor and reimbursement for property taken through eminent domain. Critics say it's unconstitutional and would bankrupt the city of San Francisco. If enacted, it would be the first city in the country to implement reparations.
So where does it sit?
It sits that the recommendations have been made. The advisory committee submitted reparations to the Board of Supervisors, and now they're urging the supervisors to act.
Well, I mean, these supervisors, would they act on that, Kim?
I don't know. And just because the advisory panel has suggested those things doesn't mean that is what would be enacted.
Sure,
right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I will say, though, you got to think about it, don't you? That's the weird thing about our supervisors in the. You got to.
You want them to do it. You want them to do something, but you don't necessarily know if you want them to do everything. I don't know. What?
Hey, it's one thing to virtue signal, but we actually have to write a check. That could be a different story.
That's a little different.
Right.
Lastly, in spirit of Karen Dawn coming up, Federal wildlife officials say the southern sea otter, which has been listed as an endangered species for more than 40 years, will remain on the list. Once prevalent throughout Monterey Bay, the sea otter has been hunted to near extinction by the fur trade. Local marine biologists also say climate change has added to problems facing the sea otter's habitat for food sources. Today, the sea otter population around the Central Coast is about 3,000. So you can see them out there. They're all over the place. But the good news is they remain on the endangered species list, so they stay protected. These
the good news is that they're right, that they're not enough of. The good news is there is an endangered species list.
Yeah.
The bad news is that, when you find yourself on it, it means you're an endangered species. I guess that might be.
But I mean, I guess you could say they could have been taken off and then, it would have been worse for them. So
right, exactly. No, I
and we
get
saw
it.
that with the Trump administration, where they took animals off that clearly didn't need to be taken off or shouldn't.
Well,
have
they
been
tried to
taken
get
off.
rid of the Endangered Species Act under the Trump administration.
Yeah,
they made it illegal for you to hunt bears as they hibernated. You could just go in and just kill the. Yeah, I mean that was that was early on in the Trump administration through executive order.
Yeah, no.
So I mean,
we like that the otter remains on the southern sea otter remains on the endangered species list. Not that we like that he's still endangered, but we like that he's still protected. That's what I'm saying.
I like that you call it him.
Him. Maybe it's a he, she. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks
Well, there
like
definitely
a he.
some she's in there, I think.
Kind of a little fuzzy, cute little face.
Cute guy, yeah.
Yeah. When you stay at the Monterey Plaza Hotel, which is a very fancy hotel, you can look out from the windows and see them in the bay. They're floating on their backs, just like this guy eating, whatever they eat, little mussels or clams or, they're so cute to watch.
Love them. Yeah. Love all that sea life.
Yeah, it's very good stuff. This report is indeed sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee, and we've got a deal for you. It's an exclusive Mark Thompson Show special, 10% off across the board, exclusive only for Mark Thompson Show listeners. At checkout, you go to type in your little code, and it's Mark T all together. And I'll tell you, this ginger mint tea, phenomenal. Yes. If you're not a coffee drinker, try the tea. So good. And they send it with sweet little tea bags. It's all very special. And Mark is saying this is the best coffee he's ever had. So
I'm not just saying it. Others are saying it too, damn it.
Oh, you're not alone.
I get a lot
now.
of email. I get a lot of email about Coachella Valley Coffee.
Coffee voices now.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to read you an email I received.
Okay.
People have had great experiences with Coachella Valley Coffee. We have our own decaf. If you're not into the calf, go for the decaf, the Why Are You Yelling decaf. And I guess somebody tried to order a Why Are You Yelling decaf, and it's in a 2-pound, here it is. Hi, Mark. From Carol, I went to Coachella Valley website where I'd previously purchased the 12-ounce Eclipse French roast blend with the Mark T 10% discount to see if I could purchase the 12-ounce Why Are You Yelling decaf, only to find that they only offered it at 2 or 5 pounds. I've told you that that's probably the best value, but that's what I get. I sent a note to them asking if they would be offering the 12-ounce, even though it was a Sunday. I got an immediate response saying they were hoping to add it soon. Then, only a couple of days later, I got the 12-ounce size.
Nice.
The Why Are You Yelling I got free of charge with a note from the head dude there at Coachella thanking me for my note saying, enjoy this coffee on us.
Oh, that's so nice.
So nice. Wanted you to know. Can't wait to try it. The scent alone is something else special. Love you and your show, Carol. Awesome. I'm so glad people have had good experiences. They are great, as you know. I've told you it's a it's a boutique place. They get fresh, first grow, whatever I think it's called, fresh grow, or whatever, first grow, and so the beans are hand roasted, and that just makes it so much richer, so much better, and all of these coffees that are curated there at Coachella Valley, I think you'll love. But you should get the bean that you think you'll like the most because they're darker, richer bean, and they're tasting notes on everything. Anyway, Mark T at checkout. 10%. I did want to share that with you though, because that's how connected they are to the people who who drank their coffee.
Yeah,
So.
my husband called because he was confused about roasts. And for him, it's about the darkness or the lightness of the roast. Had a great conversation with the owner of the company talking about different roasts and which was the right one for him to order. Such great customer service. So,
we're really happy that they are a little piece of our show. They sponsor a little bit, and that matters. And we love that our audience has tried them out and supports our sponsors. That's really great. Yeah.
This is the Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, that was quick. Okay.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great, baby.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
You cannot say you love your country.
Jada had nothing to do with it.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Calling me a liar? Now what you calling me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You can buy a Movado watch in
I think I'm the
sales.
most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
You get nothing.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
God bless America. The end.
Straight up, right in, no problem.
I'm Megan McCain, co-host of The View.
I come from regular stock.
Isn't anybody but a weed?
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Sin, party of four.
What?
Yeah, I know. It was a quiet weekend, but much to do on this Monday. We started with the Menendez denial and explanation as to why he had those gold bars and all that money in his home. Got into some Trump news, got into some more Trump news, got into some Mark Meadows news. We had Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. By the way, Commissioner, what is the game tonight on Monday Night Football?
I think there's a doubleheader. The Eagles will be playing some team, and let me double check.
Albert, thank you.
Wow, that was not what I usually. The commissioner's office, they're ready to go.
Eagles will play the Buccaneers.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what the second. Cincinnati will be playing the Rams, so a repeat of the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
There you go,
Albert. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Commish. Very well done. On Mondays, did you have anything, Kim? Before I proceed, I was
just going to say, since we're talking about sports, I just wanted to mention and Albert, maybe you have a comment on this one. The Oakland A's seem to have played their last home game ever.
Oh, that's sad.
At the Oakland Coliseum. It was like this big farewell, this big goodbye, and that's that. Does anybody care, or is that like, sayonara, sucker,
I think
out.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the commissioner didn't have that.
Albert, thank you.
I guess maybe we concentrated on football too much.
Yeah, it's football season, Mark. I'm so excited.
Yeah, baseball.
And my Giants aren't doing so well, so I've been kind of checked out of baseball.
Yeah.
Sad to see it. I watch a lot of A's games. It's just a couple BART stations away from me, so anytime the Stars are in town, there's a cheap ticket to go watch my Mike Trout, to watch the Shohei Ohtani's. Yeah. But yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. Well, the A's were screwed by Oakland, I think, and should have gotten a deal there. There was a lot of, playing footsie with the A's. I think they were misled, and Oakland should have that team, and really sorry they don't, you know. But I mean, and the other thing is that the A's have just been part of Oakland being I think, decapitated from the standpoint of sports. How do they just, it's sad what happened. I mean, it's A's, Raiders, Dubs. I mean, right? And stop me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like kind of bummed out for that community.
And they had
longtime A's fan.
They had a huge legacy here. Multiple world championships. Three in the 70s. The one against the Battle of the Bay Series, and it's really sad to see him go.
Yeah. Randy, a longtime A's fan, good riddance to the A's, he says. Fisher just screwed over Oakland. Hope the team continues to suck in Las Vegas. Wow. Randy with a kind of an edgy message to the A's. I will always have a place in my heart for the 90s roided up A's teams. I think
we love
those
the
were
Bash Brothers. Yep.
They were the 80s, I believe. Maybe not that. Maybe a little bit of the 90s. Yeah, I suppose you're right.
It bled into the 90s.
It bled into the 90s. Yeah, that was Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco and Ricky Henderson
hero,
was terrific.
Ricky Henderson, yep.
Yeah. I always really liked Major Dickinson's until I tasted Coachella Ocotillo Espresso. That's from Vicky. Yeah. That Ocotillo Espresso is my favorite. I like Ocotillo Espresso and the El Gato Espresso bean. And you can do the pour-over with it, too. Even though it's espresso in the title, you can do the pour-over. All right, on Mondays, we like to check in on the animal kingdom, what's happening, the good and the bad of it. The lady who does it with a newsletter that she puts out regularly called Dawn Watch is our pal Karen Dawn. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
You always look so glamorous. I love it.
I don't know if I'm a bit washed out today. I've been banished from the house, so I'm out on the patio, and I don't know if the light...
No, you look great. You look better than... I'm not banished anywhere, and my lighting is always an effort. So thank you for being with us. You look quite lovely in those environs outside.
I was. Yeah, I've got a glamorous statue next to me, at least. I was just sending off a note to Albert because we're going to talk about something later, and I have a gift article on my face. I have a gift article from the New York Times I can give folks, so we'll get to that.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then let's get right at it. Go ahead.
Well, first, I have to address this. When you mentioned that you've rightly insisted I include some happy stories. It's funny, when the reviews from my book came out, my favorite review from this gal, Elizabeth Custoria, included the line, or ended with the line, I got in touch with both my manic and depressive sides while reading Thanking the Monkey, because it's packed with humor and cartoons. But, the subject matter is pretty darn bleak because, unfortunately, what we do with animals is pretty bleak. And I totally agree that it's in order to be sustainable and for people to stomach it, we have to show some of the joy. But we tend to go a little bit too far. The dodo just shows you one glorious, happy animal story after another. And those are important, and they remind us how wonderful animals are so that we do care about them. But
I agree. It's a tough target and a tough balancing act to do. But it's not just that, and we can. Then I'm curious to. It's not just that it then makes the bad stuff easier to handle. It's also because people work really hard for some good things and some incremental progress in the way of protecting animals, adopting animals, helping animals, sometimes really going to heroic extremes to help animals. And I hate for that stuff to always be crowded out by how awful it is for animals. And because where I sit, it is awful for animals. I could do show after show after show about it. But I'd like the people who are associated with and the stories that are associated with positive stuff with animals to also be celebrated. That's all I want.
I agree completely. One of my favorite sayings in life, and it's relevant to activism without a doubt too, is the truth lies somewhere in the middle, the Tao, the middle way. So today, let's try and get that right. We're going to start with the bad, and then we're going to move into the still being decided, and then we're going to go to the good, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
So the bad is, I'm never quite sure what we're going to talk about. And I woke up this morning to a story that 2 bears, grizzly bears, had been euthanized And I hope Albert might have a photo of the Grizzly article there. I hope he's got these things lined up. For having been too much around people and getting, and of course they didn't hurt anybody, but they were getting into their garbage and etc. And so they've been supposedly euthanized. Now, the story gets my goat for two reasons. One is the use of that word euthanized, which I think really matters. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And the other is that I just can't believe we killed them when they didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, the problem is that people are leaving their garbage out, and the bears are getting habituated to humans. And so they decide, okay, they did the right thing the first time they tried moving the two bears. It's a mother and her cub, and they even moved them together, which was really the right start. But once they moved them, the bears were so habituated that they found their way back to human communities where they could find easy buffets. And so now they've killed them. And I just think I'm glad we're getting a little bit better, that the first instinct wasn't just to shoot them. But there's got to be a better way. And I'm going to share there's a letter from the LA Times which ended with those exact words about some burros we're going to talk about in a moment. So, and I just want to propose this, and I'd be really interested. I wish I could see, you've got such a wonderful, vital commenting community there. But it seems to me we have all of these animals in zoos that don't want to be there and that we are holding captive because people want to look at them. And then we've got these bears who, no matter what we do, they keep coming back and finding human society because they want easy food. Don't those two belong in the zoo? And shouldn't we start breeding new ones for the zoo? And that might be simplistic, but I just want to throw that out there as a thought. There are animals who actually want to be around people. And so I just don't understand why we have other grizzly bears in the zoo. And on that note, you might want to chime in there, Mark, but I'm going to move next to this.
Well, I would just chime in just to underscore what an interesting solution, because you kind of face this thing. These are, horribly dangerous animals in the sense that if they decide to turn on you, they can, destroy
unlikely,
you, and but unlikely, and they're scared. But on the other hand, they're habituated to humans. So what I want to get to though is I didn't expect from you to hear, so you know what we ought to do? We ought to pluck them up and we ought to put them someplace where they're humans. And it's actually a very sensible suggestion. And I'm smiling about the fact that I never thought of it. I thought, well, this is tough. I don't know what you do in this situation. And you're saying, I'll tell you what you do. You take these creatures that are habituated and you move them into a situation where their habituation isn't an issue. The one thing I would say is I don't know how often you can do that before you fill the zoos with, these creatures that have been habituated because our people growth has now grown into their habitats. That's what's happened. So, but for the moment, at least it would stop the bleeding on that one situation, yet they euthanize those two creatures.
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? And I'm not saying it's the solution, and I'm not saying we can always do it, but I think it's funny that you were surprised to hear me say it. And that's because, as an activist, my favorite line is, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, the Tao, the middle way, which means just that it's not fine in many cases doesn't mean it's not fine in some. It's called nuance. I love nuance. But our whole society at the moment is so polarized, either this or this. Captivity is bad, captivity is good. And I'd love to move next to the story of Luna, right on this note, who was an orca. And I saw a documentary about her. And again, I hope Albert's got the... I saw this documentary a few years ago, and it has haunted me ever since. This was an orca who, for whatever reason, was wild, but was not part of a pod. And I'm going to guess he had a bit of Asperger's. He was rejected from his pod. Who knows? They are not that different from us. And just as in human society, there are those who don't fit in. Believe me, I was one in high school. there are orcas who may not fit into their own societies. So this guy was out on his own in the middle of the ocean, and he would just constantly come up to boats and he'd let people pet them, and they'd jump in the water and they'd swim with them. And of course, there was all this fear for human safety, but even more, there was so much fear that he was going to get hurt. And so those who really cared for him decided to make a law that you were not allowed to interact with him in any way. So this orca, who was totally used to coming up to humans and having them interact with them, suddenly you'd get a ticket if you interacted with them. And he's wondering why his favorite species is suddenly rejecting him. Eventually, he wasn't captured or anything. He eventually got killed by trying to swim near boats, and a propeller killed him. And I was watching that movie, and I am so anti-captivity and believe animals deserve freedom as much as humans do. But in this one instant, you had Lolita Toki, whose mother is swimming free in the Puget Sound, dying for her to come back to her in the Miami Aquarium. And you've got Luna out in the ocean, desperate to be around people. And I'm like, what? If Miami Aquarium really needs an orca, isn't this the one they should have? So again, and I'm not saying I'm right about this, I'm not saying it would have been the right answer, but I just can't believe they forbid people from interacting with this orca who desperately wanted to be around people. And we had the same situation with Freya, the walrus. And I think most people will be familiar with this, but it may be that I'm just so in my echo chamber of the animal world that, I don't know that not everybody knows this story of this beautiful walrus named Freya. And I hope Albert has some video of her, who so loved being around people that in Norway, she did make a nuisance. Do you have the video there?
Yeah, he's got it up now. He's got the video running now. Yep.
She made a nuisance of herself. I think you're going to see her. She's
she's around the dock, and she's creating.
She actually sank a few boats. So if you were a boat owner, it wasn't really a joke. On the other hand, if she sank your boat, of course it matters. But you've got a story for a lifetime, especially if you've got video of it and you've got insurance. Whereas thousands and thousands of people love to come and see Freya.
She was a massive attraction. She became God, massive attraction. Yeah,
she was beloved. And basically, I've got a letter I wrote to the Washington Post saying she got killed. Her crime was loving humans too much, wanting to be around them too much. And what my letter was about was that they called it a mercy killing. And I'm like, a mercy killing? This gal loved life. People loved her. And if you were really worried that she was going to hurt somebody, this is the answer. The ideal answer was to let her be. And if she sank a couple of boats, okay, in my opinion. But not everybody's going to agree with that. But wouldn't the second best answer have been to put this particular girl in the zoo, not every other one, not all the other ones who don't be.
Sure.
And that's where we just have to do better. We have
to. Well, because what happened with her was they shot her. They shot her dead.
Did they? I thought they euthanized her with a needle, but I don't really care which it was. It was. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I suppose. I mean, one seems more violent.
I said euthanized. I can't believe I used the word euthanized. It's so ingrained in our culture because this was not a euthanization. This was a killing. She wasn't sick. She didn't want to die. And so we just have to do better. And if we can't let them be in the wild like these grizzlies that we're scared are going to kill somebody, well, then on some occasions, let's bring them into a big captivity. And the difference between this, last week we were talking about the Mustang roundups and those animals ending up in captivity and the sorrow of their, what I call equine slavery. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be you get the whole family and you put them on a ranch, or you put them in a lake, and that it was more expensive. But that's where it comes to, do we prioritize non-human life, or do we only care about human life? And that comes to, do we believe in a circle of life or a hierarchy of life? And if we do believe in a circle of life, I suggest we prioritize saving non-human lives, and we don't say, well, we tried, but now we'll shoot her.
Well, what's so interesting is that we typically rally. We got to wrap up here, but I would love to. So I want to get to some of the. I think your positions are really interesting and courageous, given your background as a, nuance. But these are. It's the devil is in the details, and there are shades and contours to these questions. They're just not black and white. But
if we're going to wrap up, we're going to go to turtles.
Yeah, we will. But we'll go to the turtles. But I just want to make the point that individual creatures of the sort that you featured and talked about, they actually do get a lot of the rallying around that we do as humans. We give them a name. We call them, isn't he cute? She cute? I mean, look at the way she interacts, etc. He interacts. I think we connect somehow, but then on the bigger issues with these creatures, we disconnect. It becomes something that's more of an issue than actually involving real creatures. Now to the turtle.
Mark, even on the ones we connect with, we still shoot them. So let's at least start with, Freya still got shot. So how can we hope that we're going to care about, walruses at large if we let the government kill the ones we love? And I think
what a great call, though, to just take Freya and put her in an environment where she can interact with the public. Take it's a weird thing to hear, as I say, from an activist like yourself, but it really is something. Okay, tell me about the turtles.
And I just want to stress, I'm not saying that's okay to do with walruses in general. I think we have to remember these beings are individuals. They have individual personalities and individual desires. So the turtles, this was a gorgeous story in yesterday's New York Times. And as a subscriber, I get to give gift links. And I hope, Albert, you can let me know if I manage to share that gift link, that the Tiny URL Don Watch gift link, and I hope you'll put it in the chat there. It was written yesterday in yesterday's New York Times, and it was by a school teacher who discussed a turtle who returns to the same spot every year to lay her eggs. And it's right near the volleyball court of a school. And the bad news is the reason she started laying there, it's apparently she's a climate change refugee, that where they used to lay has been washed out. So she's laid further up on the hill, and she laid them right near the volleyball of this school, this volleyball court of this school. And the kids loved the turtle, and they also wanted to play volleyball. So they got all these scientists in to work out where and because the mother, once she's laid the eggs, she doesn't sit on them like a penguin. She leaves them and hopes for the best. She does her very best by them, and then she leaves. So they, with the consultation of scientists, they dug up where they could rebury them so they could still play volleyball and the turtles would still do well. And they did this, and they've been doing this year after year. And now more and more turtles are coming to lay their eggs around this school, and it's become a total
That's really great.
And the kids dig up the eggs and replant them somewhere where they're even safer than the place that Mama found. And what I'm hoping, Mark, I don't want to have to run in and get new glasses, but on that post that Albert has up there, I've shared a paragraph or two just from this piece, which is so beautiful. And if your listeners or viewers go online to the New York Times link, the gift link I've given there, they can actually hear the woman who wrote the piece read it at an event. But can you share just those lines about our interacting with nature? Because I think that's a beautiful way for us to go out. Are you able to see that there? Put on my other glasses.
Can see it on the screen. Let me put my...
I can put my glasses on my glasses.
Put my credibility glasses. Dawn Watch takes great pleasure. Is this the one in sharing this gift link to everyone?
Yes, yes.
And here's the quote from the Sunday edition of the New York Times. Quote, "We have betrayed the millions of other species with whom we share this leafy paradise with an extractive culture that threatens their inherent right to be. Turtles among us carry a warning. We need to acknowledge our unpaid debt and create solutions that protect not only our species, but our more than human relatives as well. They want to live too. We need more than policy change. We need a change in worldview, from the fiction of human exceptionalism to the reality of our kinship and reciprocity with the living world. The earth asks, that we renounce a culture of endless taking so that the world can continue. Yeah, that's powerful. It really is.
I think seeing that in the New York Times is very good news.
Yeah, it really is good news. And the link is there for everyone to read the entire piece. Wow.
Right.
Thank you so much, Karen Dawn. We'll talk next Monday. You always look lovely.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you
enjoy
for
it.
this opportunity.
Of course. You can communicate with Karen Dawn and get her newsletter, Dawn Watch. It'll hit your inbox automatically. So
And
check
the
out Karen
Facebook
Dawn,
page.
dawnwatch.com. What's that?
And the Facebook page is very active.
The Facebook page is very active. I've got to get on.
Dawn
I've got to become more active on Facebook. All right. Thanks, Karen. Wow. Lot there.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's a heavy quote at the end, man. It's a heavy quote. There it is, Karen Dawn's dawnwatch.com. You can see it on screen. Good stuff. Well, Albert, we are rounding the last corner and headed for the end.
Albert, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm told, Albert, that you are leaving immediately after the show.
Oh.
Yeah. Your life is your crime fighter or whatever else you do, your side hustle life is making demands on you. Am I right?
Superhero.
Yeah, they want me a little earlier today. I'm not too pleased about it, but I got to do what I got to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
I have never heard of something like that.
Well, it does happen from time to time. Luis is saying, Courtney, you are, quote, killing it, talking about those that are killing. Courtney, of course, does Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. Always an awesome educational segment. Thank you. Luis, always an awesome shout out.
Big shout out.
And Gary D, look at this. A quick 20. Happy Monday, KGO gang. Have a great week. Sandy and Gary D.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool, Gary and Sandy. Very, very cool. Those who are just joining us, we are wrapping up, but we are a show that came from the radio. The radio station is called KGO. So occasionally you'll see a reference to KGO.
I do use my KGO John Rothman pens. He did come out with pens a couple years ago, and I took like a whole bunch. So I have a lot of extras, and I always use that at the said other job that wants me a little earlier today.
Oh, that's interesting. So there's always a KGO presence. We actually have talked about something. I can mention this since I'm really thinking about it out loud. I told Nikki Maduro that I really loved her idea of a box of her favorite things as a way to, she sells raffle tickets, and it's a way to raise money for the show. I said, I love that idea. It's just so straightforward, and I totally want to steal it. I guess Nikki stole it from Oprah. Then I would steal it from Nikki. So I haven't put it together yet, but I'm getting to the KGO thing that Albert just mentioned. Little pieces of relics almost from KGO might be in that box. Do you think there'd be demand for that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a part of Bay Area history, radio history.
Exactly. This is a legendary station, truly like a Hall of Fame radio station. And like I have a KGO mic cube.
Me too.
Used to be here on the mic. It said, Kate, you got one also?
Yeah, I've got all the different variations of them.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Through the years of, reporting that having to change one out on my mic. Yeah.
So we put that stuff in a box, Albert, along with, some Mark merch. You know what I mean? Some of our favorite Mark merch items. You get what I'm saying? And then I think you might have the beginnings, the primordial ooze of your own favorite things box. Yeah. What do you think? And Kim is holding up her cube, mic cube.
Maybe I take it off the microphone and put it in the box. That's it. Enjoy your mic cube.
Well, it's if you're into that bit of history.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we got it. The one thing I want is I want that box to be filled with a lot of good stuff. People are going to buy raffles. I want them to open it up and go, wow, that's really great. Now, does Nikki keep it a secret as to what's in it?
Yep.
Oh.
It's a mystery box.
We may want to reveal some of the contents, but not all of the contents.
Yeah.
We could tease some items, like $10,000 hard cash in one of the boxes.
Maybe like we'll call it the Bob Menendez Memorial Box.
Yes.
Gold bars and cash. Everybody, yeah. Do it for Senator Menendez. FKGO says Matt. Wow, that's pretty intense. FKGO.
Yeah. Well.
And I used to
What?
I used to work at KGO, and I don't even say FKGO. But I get what you're saying. You feel betrayed. I understand. Believe me, I get it. I'm close to betrayal every day in my life. Trust no one. No one. Knit One Pearl One says, I still can't believe KGO is gone. I listened since I was a kid. Thank goodness for these channels. I agree. I agree that KGO was a great part of life. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Albert, are you going to help me put together a box or at least consult on it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Mark
And
Thompson
Albert,
jackets with cash in the pockets.
We're going to...
First idea.
Why not? We could put a couple of gift certificates and stuff, coupons for, you know what I mean? That could happen.
Maybe some
I actually like that idea.
We don't know what's going to be in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. You better figure out the shipping first. Ask Joe Box about his tarp.
Yeah.
It is true that we had some issues.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Thankfully, Sal the Shoemaker never really got involved, but Joe Box did. And we took a simple situation where we all autographed this backdrop banner, send it to somebody, and it turned into a super complicated thing, didn't it? Kim, you were closer to it than anybody else.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah.
I will say Joe Box had insured it for more than it was than he paid for it. So I think he came out ahead on the deal in the end.
That's a very Joe Box move.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah. Hey, just send it. I'll worry about the insurance myself. Well done, Joe Box. Who can't love it? Who can't love it?
The Mark Thompson Show.
I can't believe the show is over.
It's a shocker.
How dare you? The show is over. On the way out, if you could smash the like button.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah. Is that it, Albert? Do I have anything else to do?
I think that is it. We're all caught up. It was a good show.
You felt good about it, Albert?
I felt good, yeah. Felt just like my Niners. I feel good.
Is this the week that we're going to tell everybody where they can send their greetings on our 1-year anniversary?
Yes, you can just record videos or a voice memo to a specific email address. We're going to share that email address, and then we're going to share your greetings.
All right.
Throughout the October, I guess, or around the 1-year anniversary.
All right. Well, that sounds very cool.
Albert, thank you.
Very good. Well told.
October
Kim, thank
12th
you.
is our anniversary. Yes, thank you.
October 12th is our anniversary? Okay.
Yeah.
Kim has a show to do, the After Party Live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
And they do it over on the After Party Live channel. Tomorrow, David K. Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, will be here. Got a lot to talk to him about. Yeah, we'll get to some Trump news, but also I want news apart from the Trump situation. Good luck to the SAG after people. I hope you follow the writers and get your situation squared away in Hollywood and get that industry back to normal.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Albert's already cruising the merch site to see what he can work into the box.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.